to Otakase, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy, music industry professional tuned to marketing strategy, helping event business replace unpredictable referrals with systematic lead generation that works during the peak season and beyond. No other than Mr. Don Charles.
Hey, nice to meet you. How you doing?
Well, I'm fabulous, Mr. Dan. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. So I'm Dan Charles, and I grew up with music in my blood from a very young age, and decided to kind of go out into making music and working as an audio engineer, which led on to me starting to run very small local events, which I eventually scaled up from 60-person kind of venues up to 3,000 plus venues, where I took part of every piece of that. And during that time, I got to meet with thousands of interesting people, bands, but also on the industry side as well, learning a lot more about different event services and the challenges they have with up and down seasons, profitability, and so forth. Now, during my time as an event specialist, I had to learn how to get butts on seats, as it were. So marketing became a core of what I do there. And when I started a family, I couldn't really spend the time being up till sort of 4 or 5 in the morning, multiple nights a week anymore. So I decided to start working on the marketing side of things. And that's when I started working with a lot more event services and really helping them kind of smooth out those peaks and troughs throughout the year, building scalable and repeatable systems for their businesses, and helping them generate predictable revenue through their creative and logistical efforts. And that's when Codarity was born. And here we are today.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Dan. And today, let's talk about the insider's advantage. Why industry experience beats marketing theory every time. Beats marketing theory every time. In what specific scenarios does pure marketing theory fall short without the context of industry experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So with marketing theory, it's a lot of the time it's just words on a page, and without that actual personal experience within that scenario, it's only ever words on a page, and it just doesn't really have any context. And one of the things I find when I'm talking to event professionals and event companies on a regular basis, which I do every single week, is that I understand their language and I understand the challenges with logistics, with delivery, with client changes, with scope creep, with marketing issues and so forth as well, because I've been there and done that myself. I've walked those 10,000 miles, and oftentimes that can't be replicated, even with AI and everything like that. Sure, those tools can maybe give you a bit more of a shortcut towards the result, but it's very hard to replicate actual in the scene experience like I have, and therefore it enables me to communicate better with my clients, communicate better with the market, and ultimately kind of get better results that are much more long lasting. And that's kind of one of the key things I feel is the difference there, and why I will always go to professionals with industry experience myself when I'm looking to solve a problem, rather than just relying on what someone said who doesn't really have any direct experience.
And tell us, Mr. Dan, how do you define the insider's advantage? What are the intangible things you know from being in the trenches that you can learn from the textbook or case study?
So some of the insider advantages and things I see is that the people within this industry, the vast majority of them live really with very strong integrity and belief in doing great work. And ultimately, that means that sometimes there could be a million fires going on in the background. But you may have said something and the scope may have changed, or you may have misquoted something, for example, a piece of a deliverable there. But what I know from this events industry is that they all want to make it right, and they believe in always doing the right thing, which is quite a stoic outlook on things, which I do believe in. And ultimately, my ethos is that not everything goes right with clients all the time. That's just the way of the world and the way of business. But I know that we will always aim to do the right thing and make things right. It's exactly the same in the events industry. Is there's that kind of underlying current of trust which you build with clients when you work with them a long time. And again, that's kind of not something you can kind of fake.
Definitely. And is it not there a risk that too much industry experience can lead this how we've always done it? Thinking, how does the insider avoid becoming blind to innovation and new ideas?
Yeah, really, really great question there. So, one of the things I love about the events industry is that they are very creative people, but they're also very logical people as well. We're all very left brain, right brain thinking because you have to be. You can't just have a beautiful, amazing, well thought out design for an event without making sure that the logistics and everything are running really well too. And so, because of that creativity, they are often very open to curiosity, experiments, and really trying out new things. And what I find is that if you remain curious throughout your life, you can often find new opportunities, which might not even be a huge thing within the industry, even for several years ahead. But if you are constantly curious, constantly trying out new things in that respect, and also really tripling down on what is working as well, that's really important. Consistency is key, but having a slice of your pie, experimenting in other areas, you can often find kind of pockets of innovation that you can actually start owning almost as part of your brand, and people see you as a thought leader in that market.
Mr. Dan, on the practical advantage, can you give us a specific example where your industry experience allowed you to bypass traditional marketing steps and achieve a results much faster?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is kind of like that age old saying of really know your customer. But I just feel like the vast majority of businesses really do ignore that, and they try and market themselves to everyone and everything and be all to everyone. And I think the problem with that is that you end up just shouting into this giant ocean, and you also end up competing in very competitive areas. And ultimately, what that leads to is you being kind of nothing to anyone. And so, what I say to a lot of event businesses is find one specialist area that you can really double down on and show your expertise in, and then just really go after that for a long period of time. And ultimately, what happens there is that you can kind of start building momentum with that kind of channel, as it were. And that will often lead into much better conversations for people where they might just see you for one thing initially, but if you have good sales chops and you're good with human interaction and you're good problem solving, that will always lead on to other services and things that you can provide as well. And so the practical advice is kind of age old, is like, know your audience. But I feel really tying that in is just having a very clear ideal client persona and just ruthlessly cutting everything else out and just really focusing hard on that, because we live on a huge planet. There's 8 billion people here now. People think they can tap out an audience quickly. It's like not at all. You just need to speak to more of an individual and then market that really, really well. And if you can do that, you'll get like hundreds, thousands of people who are interested in what you have to offer. And from that, you can naturally find the ones who are going to be the great fit for you.
Great fit indeed. And Mr. Dan, how does insider knowledge fundamentally change the way you communicate with customers? Does it affect the language, the channels, or the offers you make?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we really believe in here is defining your audience very clearly, like I just said. But how deep does that go? So it goes as deep as kind of understanding things like the types of podcasts they listen to, the types of videos they watch on YouTube, maybe the websites that they read, the types of events that they go to. hell, even understanding kind of things like where they go to shop and, kind of things like their family values and things like that and what actually matter to them. So what I found is like actually going way deeper than just having a this is X, Y, and Z. You need to go a lot deeper with really who you're talking to and understand their challenges and their hopes, dreams, and aspirations on a much deeper level. And then without the filters, you just talk much more genuinely to them, and much more like a human. And with AI, sure, we can scale that across multiple channels and we can do all this cool stuff where we can speed things up a lot. But ultimately, it still needs to be based on a core message of who you are, how you can help those people, and that you understand them better than anyone else, and that we're still all humans here and we're here to help each other.
Helping each other for sure. For a new marketer without deep industry experience, what's the fastest way to gain that insider knowledge and credibility?
So I'd say the fastest way is to not split your attention too widely across multiple different things all at once. Although it's tempting, we're naturally kind of inquisitive people. We want to learn, and people who are in these industries are often very growth minded and they want to learn multiple things. But it really helps to kind of spend the time and effort and energy to learn just a small handful of things at a time, ideally more related to each other. That will naturally expand into other kind of topics and areas that you can improve your skill set with. But if you try and learn 20, 30 different things all at once, it's hard to be a master of any of them. So it's more about becoming a master of one thing. And then that one thing will naturally lead into additional sub areas that you can kind of focus on and enhance your skill set further. So the fastest route to becoming practical with insider advantages really is just picking a niche, picking a service, or picking some kind of problem, and then having a very clear idea of who your ideal client persona is, and going after that pretty ruthlessly and consistently for a long period of time, getting those 10,000 reps in.
Mr. Dan, let's talk about mistakes. What is the common costly mistake that, well, theo- theoretically sound marketer might make? Does someone with industry experience with inactively avoid?
So, sorry, things experience to avoid, did you say? Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
experience would inactively avoid.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that there is a lot, there is talk out there that you can absolutely go it alone and you don't need help from anyone else. But ultimately, events are about bringing people together. And so if you aren't open minded to making connections with other people, really helping other people whenever you can, you will struggle. It's kind of like you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together, as it were. And really having those kind of people skills, understanding that you can always lead with value. In most conversations, there's always some way that you can lead with value first. And if you can have that mindset with every engagement, without actually asking for anything, you'll find that people will naturally want to reach out to you and they'll want to help you. And lots of partnership opportunities arise, lots of great opportunities, lots of awesome referrals, and lots of kind of growth in the community, which is awesome because it helps everyone.
Mr. Dan, as an entrepreneur and helping professional marketing strategies, what are your short term and long term goals?
So for Codarity, the short-term goal is really we're just continuing to focus on improving our systems and processes. That's never ending. Anyone who says it's done and done is a little bit deluded, in my opinion. You should always be trying to refine and improve your customer experience, your strategy, your technical expertise, upskilling your team, and so forth as well. But the long-term goal for Codarity is to be the number one performance marketing agency for the events industry. And that's quite a lofty goal there. But it's one I'm like, hey, if I aim for it, what does that look like? Really approach that as consistently as I can. We might just get there one day. You never know.
You never know. Good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success, Mr. Dan. And can you give a piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Yeah, sure. So I would just say that the core advice is that you should always try to understand your audience more so than they understand themselves. Never spread yourself too thin, and also understand that niches within niches is still an absolutely huge market on this planet, especially as we can operate globally now. There's no reason why you can't be working within niches and expand from there. And ultimately, passion can get you started, but discipline will keep the train moving. And it's important to understand that nothing happens overnight. And, if you believe in something or you're very good at solving problems of some sort, then you can go well so long as you have a very realistic expectation. Like Alex Mosey says, a 10-year horizon, not a 90-day horizon. Like sort of social media and everything seems to be promoting is gurus and all this who blew up in 90 days and stuff like that. And funny, you don't see them 90 days later doing anything. Whereas the businesses which stick around for the longest are the ones who just consistently improve and constantly refine and have a long-term view of growth.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Dan. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So a book that's influenced my journey is Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of the reasons why I absolutely love this book is because it has that kind of consistent mentality of looking at the long term there and having a feedback loop. So understanding that sometimes problems happen, how do you solve that problem, and then move on to the next, and then each single step of that loop creates the hedgehog effect, as they call it, which I absolutely love. It's a bit odd when I talk to people about it, but one of the key things I loved about that was that analogy of the hedgehog effect. And it's something I've really lived true to for sort of 5, 6 years now. I mean, I read that in 2019, just before we went into all the challenges with the pandemic and so forth as well. That really helped me guide a lot of my decisions moving forward. And it's something which really stuck with me for the long term and showed me how great businesses stick around for decades, sometimes hundreds of years, not just kind of weeks or months. And it's really kind of shown me quite a lot about the fact that things do go up and down. And if you weather that storm for the long term, you still get more at bats, as it were. And the game never quits unless you quit.
Yes, don't quit, people. Just continue. What are you doing? And play consistently. Consistency is the key. And thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Dan. And let's talk about the own challenges and objections. What is the most compelling argument you've heard from the theory first marketer, and how do you respond to it?
So I've heard a lot about um, just there seems to be a bit of a mentality out there that you should be doing everything all at once. And that's a bit broken because if you are yourself and your own, it's very hard to just do everything all at once. So it goes back to where are you focusing your time and energy? And ultimately, I believe in just doing one thing really, really well for a very long, sustained period of time. And so I would always argue that um, if you put me or any other driven person up against someone who believes in doing everything all at once and someone who has their eye on one single target, you might both hit that target. But I know that the one who's singular focused on that one target will hit it way faster than the person who's trying to do everything all at once. So it's really just that 80-20 rule. Give yourself more mental bandwidth and understand that you can't do everything all at once. Um, you can't be great at everything, as it were. You can only be You can realistically achieve a few things in your life. So choose wisely what you want to achieve.
Indeed. And Mr. Dan, tell us, in a rapidly changing industry, how do you keep your insider knowledge from becoming outdated? How do you stay fresh?
Mm, mm. Yeah, so it goes back to just constantly remaining curious and just understanding that things are always changing. And I like to keep a pulse on things by actually doing the things or working with my team on creating new things or understanding how things work and just exploring different options. And obviously, we've seen since kind of 20, the end of 2022 coming into 2023 when things like ChatGPT launched. We've seen an absolute explosion across AI, and I don't want to go into AI because it's something we do heavily here, but the rate of expansion and the rate of progress is significantly speeding up. And it's kind of critical now that if you aren't continuously adapting to change and remaining curious and applying that consistency, you will 100% fall behind. And so there are tools, there are systems and things like that. And, obviously you can follow the right kind of people online to stay on top of those types of things. But I do feel that picking a good path, exploring that path, and just testing the waters is a good way to do that. But just don't make that all of what you do. It should be about 10, 15% of what you do on a weekly, monthly basis. So you keep your eye on your target and your focus, but always have that window, that slice of your time dedicated to learning, trying, experimenting with new things. And that will kind of keep you sharp for the long term. And it's served me well for the last 10 years or so. Yeah.
For a company hiring, how do they weigh a candidate, let's say, against the candidate's 10 years of direct industry experience?
So the way I see it is, depending on kind of how you're hiring or who you're hiring, I prefer aptitude over academia every single time. I mean, I didn't do particularly well at school. I did very average in my GCSEs. I actually dropped out of college because I decided to start doing events and things like that, which I was making a success of in the music industry and things. So, I didn't do particularly well academically, but I'm still here and still growing. And so, the way I see it is, I would rather have someone who spent 3 years learning about how the industry works or applying themselves than someone who spent 3 years listening to a lecturer tell them about how the industry works. So, realistically, it should be a case of if you are interested in kind of making your way in a certain industry, events being one of them, for example, then I'm still very much an advocate of just get your foot in the door. If you are interested in sound engineering, go and offer to do some sound engineering and things like that. When I started, I wanted to do events. So I started doing events for free, small little 50 capacity clubs and things like that, 50, 60 capacity, and built it up from there to the point where we were doing 3,000 plus and making like 5, 6 figures from that. And so I would just say that if you don't have industry experience, there are lots of other applicable skills that you can get outside of school and academia that are going to be far more beneficial to your career path than just listening to lectures all day. And that's not to say university is a point not worthwhile. You can get a lot of benefit from that, but in my mind, I think you should be doing that alongside university. If you're doing educational work, you should be going out and getting real world experience right now, not waiting 3, 4 years for that. So that's kind of how I look at it when I meet with people and potentially look at hiring, or when I'm talking with people about that, is what is their aptitude? What is their attitude like? Do they have any kind of transferable skills? And how do they carry themselves in the world? Those things are far more important than me because the rest of it can be learned.
Your next generation performance marketing agency for the events industry. Can you expound this phrase on your website?
So when we say next generation, we really mean that we are applying the latest technologies, the cutting edge technologies for our clients and their campaigns, whether it's helping them with creative ad and media buying, systems and automation, or implementing AI systems for their business that help them kind of scale further. Our goal has always been to help event businesses escape the feast or famine cycle by developing predictable and repeatable systems that turn creative excellence into predictable revenue. And our flagship methodology is our evergreen event profit system, where we would always have a very deep strategic insight with any client who is interested in working with us before we would even say we can help them or work with them moving forward. We always look at how we can deploy a strategy that we know is actually going to work for them. And ultimately, what we find is by doing that initially, it actually gets a far better, more consistent result long term for them. And that's ultimately what we want, right? We want them to get a great result for the long term. So, yeah, essentially, that's how we develop that methodology, is really building the evergreen event profit system, which combines multiple marketing channels and disciplines into a robust strategy that helps them grow any season.
Yes, definitely. And Mr. Dan, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season. I'm a book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season. I'm a food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in first season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Finally, Mr. Dan, if you had only give one piece of advice or recommendation to a marketing team to help them gain this advantage, what would it be?
It would be to know your audience better than anyone else and then ruthlessly go after serving them as best as you possibly can.
Yes, serve them with the best of the best, Mr. Dan and Charles. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find our website, codarity.com. That's CODARITY.com. And on there, there's an offer to get a free initial event evergreen event profit system strategy call. And from there, we can determine whether we can even help you. If you want to keep tabs on our social media, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can find me LinkedIn/Dan Charles. And then the other social channels are at Codarity as well. And yeah, you got any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions and have a chat. Thank you.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Dan Charles because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering marketing business to come. So, Mr. Dan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.